Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Kyle Suggs, where I take culture, TV, and movies and I filter it right. If this is your first time here, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. And so today I did this video because I wanted to do something quickly because I got a text. Let me just break this down here for you really quickly. First of all, welcome to my channel. My name is Kyle Suggs, and this is my live stream. I typically do it on a Wednesday. Sometimes I have a guest. I didn't have time to do any of that. I literally put this together within the last 2 hours because of some news that broke, which may not be big news to some of you out there, but to me, it's a big deal. And it really affects the 2020 elections. And one of the reasons why this whole channel exists is because of the news that I'm about to share with you. And some of you already know because you saw this on my Facebook and my YouTube stream. I had out there for about 2 hours that this is going to be coming. So that being said, I decided to do this because, well, the reason why I'm doing this is because of the news, but I was actually working on something totally different today. And I was trying to put together a lot of infrastructure for my conservative take. All right. That's where I take movie reviews, particularly with the Oscars. I know what some of you are thinking. The Oscars are crazy. They're not what they used to be. Okay. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that the movies are left wing and they're all about identity politics. They're all about pushing forth a narrative and an agenda. And all of that is true. That it's a cesspool. All of that is not, you're not wrong on that, right? But for me, entertainment with movies is something that I really, really enjoyed growing up. I used to watch all the movies that were nominated, going way back to, the 80s, and I would try and predict to see which ones would win. And so that kind of carried forward to today. The problem is you see what I just said, right? All this narrative being put into our movies, our entertainment, our TV, our sports, everything. And so it makes it very difficult. So I thought I'd put together something or a channel where I could say these things or about movies that is coming from a perspective of people who are looking to just be entertained and not have this stuff rammed down your throats. And so that's what this channel is all about. So the conservative take is simply my conservative take on what's going on. So if you want to check me out on these reviews, you don't have to worry about seeing it if you're worried about wasting your money, wasting your time, or being offended by something that's totally crazy. So I'll watch it for you and I'll report back to you. So anyway, I have about a year's worth of reviews out there. And last year I did all the Oscar movies and they're out there as well on my channel. And so I'm doing that again this year, but I'm doing something a little bit more formalized. I'm trying to do something that's more streamlined in the way I produce these things, because a movie review is a lot different than doing in this live stream where I can jump on here, throw the cameras on, put some articles up and kind of prep for it. That's pretty quick and easy. Doing a movie review takes about 2 hours to do if I'm lucky. If I can, now you have to watch the movie. That's number one, and pay for it. And you have to come up with your thoughts and organize it. And I have a template and everything that I put together. And so that takes about 2 hours to do once you watch the movie. So I figured out a way of streamlining it so I can do stuff not in post like I do it now, all my effects and stuff, my third lower titled screens where I have like the different aspects of it. All that's going to be done automated as I'm filming it. Long story short, it took me a long time to do that, but I stopped all that to do this video. So with no further ado, here are the topics. Okay, so this is sort of where we are right now, the quick update. That's kind of what this first topic is, the quick update. Then I'm going to get into the Black support, which is what this video is titled. Okay, it's about Trump support has doubled. Went from 21% last year, Trump Black approval rating in Rasmussen reports, to 42% today. I'm going to talk about that. Also, I got another link from a friend of mine on my Facebook. He said, "Hey, Kyle, check this out. This is the election that happened last night in Texas. And I was aware of it. It was a runoff election for a House seat in Texas. Texas has 150 House seats. And this was an important election because a lot of money was being put into this particular race. And it was a situation where the Democrats are trying hard to capture the state House of Texas in 2020 and potentially turning the state blue. All right. And lastly, I kind of mentioned this already about movie reviews. So I'll touch back on that, but I've kind of covered most of it there. So we kind of already covered the first two topics. Two of the topics up here, the number 1 and number 4. But I do want to hit a quick topic here really quickly, just as some house cleaning. So as we know, we just had Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. I did a expose on that about 10 minutes long about Martin Luther King Jr. and how he was a conservative in his social leanings when it comes to his religious leanings. And I got some pushback on YouTube about that he was a socialist and so forth. And I got some of that discussion going forth. But that wasn't what this article was about. This is what this video was about. It was about to basically say that the Republican Party is a conservative party, and the platitudes and the issues that are important to conservatives and Republicans are the same issues that Dr. King was interested in when we're talking about social values. Okay. We're talking about working hard and that sort of thing, accountability and believing in faith in the Bible and God. And all that stuff is something that pretty much is almost a unique or a exclusive attribute of the Republican Party. Now, I'm not saying all Democrats are like that, but if you look at their platform across the board, the DNC official platform, you'll see what I'm talking about. So that video is about that. You can check that out if you like. And also, Kobe Bryant passed away this week, and my buddy Rick did a video. He's a pilot and a police officer, so he gave a perspective of that, and that's also a very interesting video. He's been doing some videos for me, and because he wants to participate. He's been on the channel before. He does a really good job. He comes with a lot of authority and a lot of credibility because of what he does. And he's come before talking about law enforcement and how that works and how that ties into the whole Black Lives Matter deal and how it deals with just how law enforcement is being treated personally on the street. And this channel is about culture, TV, and movies, to keep it broad, but also covers politics as well, obviously, but it all bleeds together. And so that's what this is about. And so that's the quick update, kind of the house cleaning that I was going to talk about real quickly. And I will not mention this, but I have something really special planned for February. I'm super excited about this. I'm dying to tell you guys, but I just don't want to say yet until it's done. When it drops, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about and why I am so excited about this. All right. So with this, let me flip over here to my desktop here. And so let me first go back to this friend of mine on Facebook. She's also pretty well known. Her name is Deneen Borelli, and she posted this earlier today. See if I can get it here. She posted today, about 4 hours ago. She says, Rasmussen, right here, at the bottom, here. Rasmussen Poll reports total Black voter approval of real Donald Trump has doubled from 1 year ago to 42% from 21%. And so I saw that. This was texted to me from a friend of mine on Facebook. And I was like, had to double check this because this had just broken. And so she has some links here. We'll cover some of that. And so then I went out to verify it and fact check it. I couldn't find anything. Even if I went to Rasmussen's website, the poll was just breaking. I think it just had been published. I think you have to be a member of Rasmussen to get that information as it breaks. So I went there. I couldn't find anything. I wasn't a subscriber. But you go to the actual Twitter page and they confirm it right here. They say right here, fact check, if I can find it. Looks like they moved it. Okay, here, right here, it says, fact check true. So Rasmussen has confirmed that this is true. If you look at the internals of this, let's take a look at this real quick if you can see this. So you'll see back on January 29th of 2019 that the Black approval for President Trump or his favorability was right here. If you can see this right here, I'm kind of in the way here. Let me get myself out of the way here. Let me remove myself. Okay. So right here, if you see the mouse here, I don't know if you can see the mouse, but the second to last column to the right and come down about 2/3, you'll see 21%. That's total approval. Okay. Now we'll jump on over to the poll for today. Sorry if it's taking a long time. So right here, if you can see that, let me scroll down a little bit. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's do this. All right, so right there, 42%. And so that's for today, Wednesday, January 29th, 2020. So that's what we're looking at here. And I wanted to say something really quickly here. There's also an article on the Bongino report by Matt Palumbo. We may talk about that a little bit, but I'll leave this here just as a backdrop. All right, so let me just say this real quickly, okay? And I've had several videos on my channel that deal with the Black support with Trump. And I mean, you can go check out some of those right now. I will try and recap this as best I can. But essentially, I'll start with this. From the very beginning, if you look at the demographics of the Democrat electorate, you'll see that the way they've been trending to the left, that they've been garnering their support from the African American community and from the Latino community, and from really that's really the mainstay there. And so the deal with them is this: is that they have to have the African American vote, they have to have the Black vote in order to win elections, and not just have it like 51%, 60%, 70%, 80%. No, not even 90%. They need to have like at 93, 94% to basically assure that they're going to have a victory. And that's astronomical. So you wonder why you see the Democrats come out with every 4 years, the Republican of the year is a racist, whether it be George W. Bush, whether it be Mitt Romney, whether it be John McCain. That's what they do, because that's the easy way to ensure that the Black vote will turn out. If you can convince Black people that their opponent that they're looking to potentially vote for is the devil, is a racist, has a Ku Klux Klan outfit in their closet, and make no mistake about it, the Democrats want you to believe this, then it's easier for them to win the election. It's easy peasy. They don't have to do anything. I mean, think about it. Just sit back and think about it. If you were running for an office, okay, and I've run campaigns in the past of not statewide, but state house, okay, in North Carolina. So here's the deal, right? If you're going to run a campaign, there is so much involved in running a campaign. As a campaign manager, you have to worry about, not only you have to worry about the tax, the tax status you're in, because you have a treasury that you have to make sure that you adhere to make sure that there's certain campaign finance laws are being upheld. You have to worry about what districts you're going to deal with. You have to deal with what your candidate's going to do, where he or she's going to be at any given time. You and the candidate have to be lockstep in everything they're doing. You have to figure out who's going to vote for you, who's not going to vote for you. The people who aren't going to vote for you, pass those off and don't worry about them. The people who are going to vote for you, you have to target those specifically, figure out what you're going to do, know where they're going to meet. Is it going to be the women's bake sale that happens every 2 months? That's going to be a big turnout. Is that going to be worth the while going there, or is it going to be worth going to the firemen's committee or the Elks Club meeting? Those kind of things have to be planned out across the year. It's very, very difficult to run a campaign. You have campaign volunteers, you have flyers, you have publicity, you have everything you can think about to do, marketing, appearances, countering opposition research. I'm saying all this to say this: if you knew that you could just take all that away and just do a couple things here, a couple tweets here, a couple emails here, a couple things here, pass it off to a couple groups to spread the word that your opponent is a racist, and that would guarantee you a 93% turnout. You don't think the Democrats are going to do that? You don't think anybody's going to do that? No other group has that kind of lock and step on any group, period. There is no group, whether it be Latinos, Jewish, no matter, has that kind of approval rating, or I'm not sure what the word, I'm looking for the word of overall percentage. The highest overall percentage of any group that I know of is the African Americans, and particularly African American females. They're like about 97% Democrat. If you see a black woman on the street, 97% of the 90% chance that she's going to be voting for a Democrat. Okay, even though her values probably are not going to be that high, and which kind of goes into what I was saying about the Martin Luther King Jr. video, where it goes counterbalanced to what people believe. If they think that you are an enemy of them and are going to be that way, and it's reinforced by other narratives that are put out, then you're going to do that. And so that's what happens. So this is why Trump getting the vote at this higher level is so incredibly important. It's also going to send total panic into the Democrats. Now, look, they're going to say this. They're going to say, hey, you know what? There's no way Trump is going to get 42% of the black turnout. And they're probably right. And they might not even get half. But if they even got a third, which is around 13%, that in of itself would be 2 points higher than what he got before. Or I'm not sure what he got before, but it would be so much higher than what he got before, which he won. I think it's 8% he got before. I just don't remember. But it wasn't 13. Even that would be detrimental to the Democrats. It's one of the reasons why they've been courting the illegal immigrants. I've been trying to tell my people out here, look, do you not realize that the illegal immigrant situation, they are slowly moving you out of the way as a replacement? You think you're being ignored now? You think you're being marginalized now? Look at the Congressional Black Caucus. They do absolutely nothing. They have no authority, no power whatsoever. And I was saying this when I was a liberal, in the 90s, when I was a liberal, I was on Capitol Hill, and I was saying, look, I'm a Democrat, but why are these Congressional Black Caucus members not doing anything? I was looking at other leaders in the black community at the time, and it wasn't Al Sharpton. Trust me, it wasn't him. Okay, but the point is that everyone knows it, all right? And so if you think you're being marginalized then, you're definitely going to be marginalized now, or totally ignored, because they're going to need you anymore. If they can get the illegal immigration vote to take out Texas, then as far as the Democrats are concerned, they don't care about you anymore. And that is what's so really, 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 it's just sad. It's sad that people just don't have the interest to understand that they're totally being manipulated. And yet the first thing they want to do is talk about how the government's keeping them down. They want the man's keeping them down. Oh yeah. And yet you think that the Democrats are going to do you any better. And especially when they're running the House. And I just don't get it. I'll tell you a quick story real quickly. I was downtown at voting. I think this was in 2000. This is, I think, a primary, I believe. The primary for North Carolina. I was downtown and I was heading up there. Of course, as you walk up to the courthouse where their voting was, it was early voting. And I wanted to go ahead and take care of this. And so I saw a brother man on the corner. I knew he was a Democrat because he was handing out flyers of people that I knew were Democrats. And I had my Trump hat on. I don't think I did. But I walked past him. He gave me a flyer and he said, can you vote for this person? I said, I'm voting for Trump and the Republican Party all the way. So I just walked in, I was being very respectful, whatever. And he was, cool too. So I went in, I voted, I came back out, right, walked past him again. And then he said, yo, brother, talk to me, man. I know you already voted and never, but I'm just curious. Why are you voting for Trump? Why are you voting for Republicans? And I said, you know what? I said, I'm voting for Republicans because, particularly for Trump, because the illegal immigrants who have come into this country, because that was a big thing that Trump was running on, and he still is. I said, because illegal immigrants have come into this country, and again, let me just say this quickly, because people will twist your words. I'm not talking about people who get in the back of the line, work their way up, wait years, and become citizens. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who come over illegally, overstay their visas illegally, who should not be here. I'm talking about these people. These people do not have the right to be here, and especially as a Black person. I was telling this brother man. So look, especially as us, how can we sit here and allow these people to come in here free of charge, get free benefits and so forth, when our people bled, sweat, and died in bondage for 200 years? Countless inventions, countless attributes to this country. In every major war, we fought and died, and we contributed in many ways in manufacturing, civil engineering, and culture, entertainment, music, everything. This is our country, and yet we're gonna let people come in here and jump in front of us and get things that even our own people haven't had. You're trying to, and I was getting hyped, and he was like, "You know what, dude, you bring up a very good point." And I was like, "Yeah, I know I bring up a good point. If there's one issue to bring up to a Black person, and I should do a video on this. Okay, I should do a video on this because, Black people just don't understand that this is their country. The moment you buy into the fact that America is no longer great, or it was never great, as you hear, all that does is give you an excuse to be victimized and to ignore the sacrifices that came before you. If this country wasn't great, do you think Harriet Tubman would have done what she did? Do you think the people who came before us would have done what they did? That's a spit in their face, and it dishonors their service and their legacy and their sacrifice. And so, that's kind of what this is about. And that's why I get so hyped when I see these kind of polls. So going back to it, look, if for some reason Trump gets just a third of that, it's going to be detrimental to the Democrats. It's going to be a landslide. In fact, a few months ago, in two polls, it was, and these were not, conservative polls. These were like, I forget the two polls. I think one was Marist poll, I believe, had Trump in the 30s, 35% approval rating. I have a video out there on my channel again, which basically talks about, I go through a situation what would happen if Trump were to get 34% of the Black vote. What would that look like? And it is just, it's mind blowing. I mean, let's just see it for yourself. When you see the thumbnail, you'll kind of know what direction the video is going, and you won't even believe how I get there. But at the end, you'll see how I get there. So, that's kind of where we are. Let's take a drink here. So let's take a look at this article here. It says Trump support among Black voters has doubled since last year. All right. Since November, two polls found that President Trump's approval rating among Black voters had reached 34%. That's what I was mentioning. An Emerson poll, that was the poll, found that Trump has a 34.5 approval rating among Black likely voters, and a Rasmussen poll found that number was at 34%. Let me break in here really quickly. Okay. Emerson poll is a poll, like many, many other polls in the Real Clear Politics polling, is a poll that basically goes out and it does registered voters. Okay. It just does registered voters. It's not that accurate. I mean, it is what it is. And you can kind of whatever. Rasmussen's one of the few polls, and it's been one of the most accurate polls of the past 6 or 7 election cycles. It even had the 2016 correct. If you look at the percentages, I think it had Hillary winning by like a point or whatever, but prior to that, you had Trump up, whatever. It was still the most accurate up to that point. I think the LA Daily was probably the most accurate at the time because it had Trump winning the entire election cycle. But anyway, I'm digressing. Rasmussen does likely voters. Okay. And there's a whole thing about that. It's more effort to do that, but it's about 6 or 7 points more accurate than a Emerson poll. Emerson poll, being more of a liberal poll, has at 34%. I'm thinking the number is going to be closer to about 40%. I said that back then, and we're seeing that sort of now. And even the Latino vote early in the year was at like 50%. I have a video on that as well. Of course, those two could have been outliers. I admit that. But even the Latino vote is much higher than what the Democrats feel comfortable with. So I want to put that out there to let you know what those two polls were. Okay, it says both polls provide an obvious contradiction to the media narrative about President Trump appealing to racists. Hence, why neither got a second of airtime on CNN or MSNBC. Okay, shocking, right? It says here that the latest data from Rasmussen reports has Black support as high as 42 overall among likely voters, with a 29% strongly approving. 29% of Black Americans strongly approve. Now that's something I just didn't pick up on. Okay, let me think about that. I need some time for that one. 29% strongly approve. You know, those could be voters. I'm not going to say here that Trump's going to pull 30% of the Black vote, but I'm thinking 13%, 14% is going to happen unless, of course, they're going to throw that big thing in October, you know, some whatever about trumping and races, whatever. They're going to, there's going to be some kind of something going on that's going to be that's going to try and get that number down. But wow, 29% strongly approve is I'm sorry for digressing there. Okay, so 1 year ago today, Rasmussen had Trump polling at 21% approval among Black voters, meaning that support has doubled in the past year. It has doubled in 1 year. Here's the numbers we showed before. The customary standard disclaimer here is that the margin of error, specifically to the likely Black voter subsample, likely voter, like I said before, wow, is plus or minus 11. That's a lot. That's a lot. However, at 42%, hey, at 42%, 30% is still pretty banging. And of course, 53% is really banging. So, yeah, I don't know. It's probably somewhere in the middle of that, probably 5, you know, but still, here's the thing. People argue all the time with me on Facebook. Oh my gosh, Kyle, no, you can't have, 34%. That's not possible. He's not going to get that. Look, I get it. Getting a person to approve somebody and going to the voting booth is a whole nother story. I have a whole story about me walking to the voting booth and voting for President Bush W. That was, well, no, that wasn't difficult. That was okay. I was okay doing that. My first inkling going to the voting booth was voting for Al Gore over Bush, which I did. And I basically had my hand on George W. Bush's thing. And I finally, I just couldn't do it. And I went over to Gore and voted for Gore. But I was close. Even I didn't like Gore. And I voted for Bill Clinton twice. So, but yeah, translating that into a vote is a whole nother ballgame because there's a psychological thing going on there, right? And so I get that. But I was telling these guys, look, even if he gets half, this is back when it was 34. Even if he gets half, dude, that's still, that does the job. I mean, if you look at Michigan, if you look at Pennsylvania in particular, Trump pulled those two states because Detroit and Philadelphia were way down. And part of that was because of the early voting. There was no early voting. There was no same day. There was no early voting in those areas. So you had to do it same day. And I knew for a fact that Black people were not going to go vote for Hillary. They may be dragged into a 4-month in advance early voting thing where someone grabs you at a grocery store and says, hey, you want to vote Democrat, blah, 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 and they talk you into it. That's one thing. But I knew for a fact they're not going to wake up on Tuesday to go vote for Hillary. They're not going to wake up in Philadelphia or Detroit. They're not. If you walk through the urban cities, like I've done, I did back in 2016, looking for signs for Hillary in the hood, in the Black community. That's derogatory. In the urban areas, right? You know what I'm talking about. In those areas, all right, there was no signs. The only signs I saw for Hillary Clinton were at establishments who I knew were either on the city council, who were Democrat, and they actually owned that establishment, and a few of the signs I saw at other businesses along the way. There were no signs anywhere else. You go back and look at Obama, which I know is not a fair assessment because that's a whole different ballgame. Obama was a once-in-a-lifetime transformative type of person, election. I get that. But even if you go back to, let me see, John Kerry, you saw John Kerry stuff everywhere in the Black community, okay? Just wasn't doing it for Hillary. I knew that. And that I knew that if that happened, that Trump would have a chance of winning Pennsylvania because he had the western side of Pennsylvania on lockdown, partially because the coal miners and because Hillary Clinton said what she said about the coal miners, and simply because Trump, again, is a big ticket type of candidate. Right? He is not your traditional country club Republican that was dominant in the 70s and in the 80s and creeped over into the 90s. And then, of course, you had the whole thing with the Reagan, the new Reagan people who came out under the Newt Gingrich campaign for the contract with America. Started to change there a little bit, but then it kind of went back into that area again. Trump is not that kind of person. He appeals across the board, and he peels off layers of different demographics. He peels off people from the LGBTQ community. He pulls out people obviously from the Black community, from the Latino community, from the Asian community, from the blue collar workers. We put a lot of these from there, from the disenfranchised community of people who don't ever vote, from college age students, who typically are more liberal. He pulled up just enough from every single sector of those different demographic areas and peeled away just enough to have a much bigger tent that any Republican ever could have considered, which is why I don't think Ted Cruz could have won. I don't think any other candidates could have won, even though I would have voted for him. I think one of the reasons why I voted for Trump was because of that, because I saw him winning a general election. Now, after he won in 2016, and I believe he'll win again in 2020, I think after those 8 years are up, I think he will tell another candidate in, and that person can be of a more traditional conservative, as long as they're a MAGA conservative, because we really need to get the spending down, pay this interest down the debt, which is one of the big reasons why we're having this spending issues. But all of this, and that's going to have to be, he's going to have to set the path for that, okay? There is no person coming in, jumping in there and beating a Hillary because everything had gone so far left because President Obama had done everything he could do to turn it back to where we're back into identity politics. We're dealing with culture wars. We're dealing with America is not a good country and all this. And that appeals to a certain demographic of people that just makes it very difficult. And the media being backed behind them makes it very difficult for people to break that wall with conservative values. Okay. Because it just was not going to happen. But Trump was able to do that. And I saw that early on, which is why I pulled for him. All right. So let's kind of get to this. I'm kind of get to this. Says here that polling is already optimistic for President Trump's reelection prospects. A poll released right before Christmas found Trump beating every single 2020 Democrat contender in a hypothetical head-to-head. So weak is the field of the Democrats that even Hillary Clinton thinks she could scoop the nomination. And she could even be right. But just like the rest of them, she lose the race to Trump again. I totally agree with that. All right, so I think I kind of beat that pretty good, pretty well. So I want to talk about this election that happened yesterday. This is in Texas. And I read this article prior to the meeting, prior to this stream. And so I'm going to read it again for you. It's not that exciting, but it is interesting. So I'll read the first couple of paragraphs and kind of give you an idea. And I'll try and get some thoughts on what my thoughts are on this as well with Texas and with the whole thing with the Democrats trying to turn these states like Arizona and Texas blue. It says here, this is by Russell Berman. Russell Berman of The Atlantic. It says the humbling of Democrats in Texas. Republicans in the state were caught napping in 2016 and 2018. They came back to life last night in a key special election. What they're referring to is the Democrats have been flooding Texas with propaganda. You had Beto O'Rourke, who was not Hispanic. He came into Texas and nearly beat Ted Cruz, who was a very popular senator who is a very popular senator in Texas. Took a lot of money to beat him. And so they've been methodically trying to go into these districts and trying to pick off seat by seat. So it said that Democrats always knew, it was going to be hard to turn Texas blue in 2020. This week, they received a painful reminder of just how tough it will be. Republicans last night swamped Democrats in what one progressive group had hyped as the most important special election since the midterms, winning by 16 points a key state legislative race that both parties viewed as a test run for the much bigger campaign this fall. The defeat, particularly by such a large margin, was a setback for Democrats who poured nearly $1 million into the election. It also signaled reinvigoration of the Texas GOP. Republicans were caught napping in 2016, as we mentioned, and 2018, giving Democrats hope that they could put the country's largest GOP stronghold in play this year. Let me just say this. Texas is not going to go blue in 2020, but it could in 2024. I think once Trump gets his policies in place, the wall gets built, we have certain things happen, there'll be a lot of self-deportation happening. There's a lot of cheating going on right now. Let's just be clear. There's a lot of cheating going on right now. All right? There's a lot of cheating going on. I'll leave it at that. All right? I mean, this is not a level playing field. All right? I'm going to leave it at that. But it is what it is. And we have to deal with that reality. And so, but it's not going to go this time. So their goal is to, of course, make it happen later. However, that being said, Trump could have won. Well, I'm not sure if my numbers are right here or not. He almost could have won without Texas in 2016. I'm not sure about that. It was close. I think he had to maybe pick up one more state, and he could have not even had Texas. So we are seeing definitely a redrawing of the maps here. And I don't think Texas has to be one of those. Okay. Anyway, let's get back to this. But the party came back to life in this race, meaning the GOP. The GOP woke up, well exceeding Democrats' substantial investment of $1 million. Texas Governor Greg Abbott and other top Republicans threw their support behind the GOP candidate Gary Gates, who spent more than $1.5 million of his own money in the campaign, which is good because that means he's not going to be, no one's going to tell him what to do if he's spending his own money. You know, that's one thing I liked about Trump, right? That he had a lot of grassroots going on. He knows who butters his bread. It's the people. Okay. And as long as he keeps the people, as long as he keeps his promises, which he's done a really good job of, as long as he keeps his promises, he's going to be fine. And so I think spending $1.5 million of your own money, it's a lot. Would you want to do that? No. But in doing so, you don't have to worry about so much as being influenced by other interest groups, lobbyists, and so forth. The millions spent in total were a whopping sum of an election decided by just 30,000 people, a turnout of 20%, to fill just one of the 150 seats in the Texas State House. Okay, so this article goes on to talk about the Democrats are basically saying they're marginalizing it, saying, hey, the Republicans try to move the election in the dead of winter and they try to do this. And the fact that they won by what they did is a victory for us. And that the Democrats, that the Republicans should be scared as hell. They mentioned that here later on in the article down here in the bottom. I don't want to talk the whole thing here, but I did read that part of it. Where's it at? It says here, so the Democrats said that I think it's a win for us, Democrats. I think it shows Republicans are scared as hell. So basically, they're just trying to spin this. Of course, had they won it, it would have been the biggest thing since sliced bread. And okay, don't you see now that the Democrats are going to win Texas and the Republicans are, this is a referendum against Trump and blah, 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 blah. So you can't get anything with these. They're always going to spin it the way they want to spin it. But other Democratic operatives I spoke with this morning conceded that it was a stretch to call Texas a winnable state for the party's eventual presidential nominee in 2020. These dampened expectations are a contrast to the hype that built up for after 2016, when the 9-point gap between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in Texas was smaller than the gap in Iowa and barely larger than the one in Ohio. But they said last night's special election defeat did not dim their hopes for winning a majority in the state house. So they're still trying. It's gonna be a battle. But as long as the GOP gets their act in gear and they campaign strongly and take things seriously, because what happens is you take your voters for granted and you realize that's what happens. So AOC, that's what happened there. I mean, the person that she ran against there, I forget his name, but he was the third most powerful person in the Democrat Party. He lost that seat because he basically took it for granted. And that's what happens. If you don't campaign hard, you can lose. It just happens. You have no idea, nor can you predict who's going to show up at the polls. Because the Texas legislature meets only on odd number years, Gates, who's the House Representative-elect, won't even cast a vote before he faces Markowitz in November's rematch. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess he won. I'm not sure what that was. Oh, okay. So the state Democrat Party chairman, Gilberto Hinojosa, vowed that, I probably butchered that name, vowed that race would be a toss-up despite Tuesday's results. The Texas legislature is high on Democrats' target list for 2020, when victories in states' races will carry added gravity heading into the next round of redistricting. So every 10 years, we have redistricting because of the census. And so whoever has the control of the House gets to control the districts. And so that's what they want to do. They want to win the House so they can, the state House and I guess state Senate, so they can control the redistricting, so they can gerrymander themselves into power. So there's that. And so I feel, with that being on the radar now, I think with what Trump's doing with his policies, with the wall, immigration, and how Texas is just, they don't play that, they don't play those games in Texas. They like their liberty. And so I think Texas will be fine. But if you look at the electoral map as a whole, we're seeing some redrawing here. Obviously Pennsylvania, obviously Wisconsin, obviously Iowa, obviously Michigan, potentially. Those are there. But then you have situations with like Minnesota, which Trump didn't lose by that much. And I believe he was leading New Hampshire most of the night. I think Hillary came back and took that. And dare I say New Jersey, maybe too early for that. But as things get redrawn, you see things happen. And as values change, people move out of bad states into good states. The good states become bad. They move out of bad states. And so that just happens, population like that. And if you go back and look at the electoral results from going way back, you just see it changes, ebbs and flows so much, and it will never be the same. Any two election cycles in a row, it just doesn't happen that way. So be prepared for that. And so let me go back to my list here. I'm not sure what else I had to talk about. Let me see here. Yeah, that was pretty much it. So, as far as the movie reviews are concerned, I have 4 that I've seen. I saw, let me see. It's tough watching all these movies because you got to, get out of the house and you got to stream it, whatever. And it's tough, but I want to do it. So I saw these 4 films, and I'm going to be posting those up hopefully in the next day or so. I got my template done and it's ready to go. And so with that, it's going to be a situation where you can basically say, hey, I like movies, but I don't trust Hollywood, and I want to get someone's opinion who has seen it, who shares the same values as I do. So I want to know if it's worth my time or effort. Plus, there's some things that are out there that you never want to see, but you at least want to be able to talk about it intelligently. And so if you see someone's review, you can kind of take their word for it. Like the David Chappelle thing, Sticks and Stones. Many people who watch this channel don't want to see that, don't like Dave Chappelle, but everybody was talking about it. So you watch my review of it, you can kind of see it. The Trayvon hoax, another thing that you can't find anywhere. You can check out my review there. I give my take on that, which, by the way, is fantastic. But yeah, so that is pretty much what I had for my talking here. And let me check my notes here. I can't tell you what I want to tell you on what's happening. Probably going to be next week. a video is going to drop that's going to be, I'm really, really excited about. But so yeah, so with that, if you guys, like this content on my channel, feel free to, by all means, drop a comment, okay? Like, subscribe, obviously, or just watch the video at least halfway through. All that goes into play with the YouTube algorithm. All it cares about is, are people being engaged? Are they watching? Are they commenting? Are they liking? Are they subscribing, obviously? And that helps to grow the channel. So if you like that, we take content of culture, TV, movies, and we filter it right. And if you want to continue on that, please consider liking and subscribing and sharing with your friends. And please check out some videos on my channel. And everyone here, I thank you for checking out my live stream, and I will see you guys next time.